Begin. Chapter 5.
Spike? Spike! Twilight called, now closing the door of her library home behind her. The place was dark, just as she had remembered leaving it, except Owlicious wasn't present. This gave her the chills. Perhaps Celestia really did come by here, and something happened to both her assistants. Quickly, she rushed up the stairs to the room and magically opened the door, barging inside. To her relief, Spike was still laying in his bed asleep, covered up by his blanket. She rushed to his side and nudged her nose against him, eventually waking him up after a few tries. He groaned and rolled over, becoming more aggravated that Twilight had continued to nudge him. "Spike, wake up!" she whispered very loudly. "You gotta come with us!" "To where?" Spike groaned, rolling over to face her with an unimpressed look on his face. "I don't think it's safe here. I believe the princess to have come down with some sort of mental illness." "The princess? You mean Celestia?" Spike questioned, the memories of what he hoped were just a dream coming back into focus of his mind. "Yes, her. I've got to get you out of here before she decides to do something illogical." "But she was already here, I think," Spike said, slowly leaning up. "She wasn't acting herself. It was really creepy." "What did she do?" Twilight questioned, her eyes growing slightly wider. Spike paused and shivered slightly, remembering what had happened to him. "She kinda licked me. It felt really weird." "Where did she lick you?" Twilight asked, fearful that Celestia may have done to him what she had done to Pinkie Pie. Spike bit his lower lip and slowly pointed to his stomach, and then trailed his claw up across over his face in a straight line. Afterwards, he began to get a cold shiver through his body, and shook slightly. "Come on, Spike," Twilight said, trying to push the thought of what Spike reenacted out in her mind. "Let's get going. I'm bringing you to Fluttershy's place for now until we can figure out what to do. It's not safe here." "All right, Twilight," Spike said as he grabbed his blanket and lazily hopped onto Twilight's back. Twilight walked out of the room and closed the door behind her, then looked one more time for her nighttime assistant. Again, not seeing him anywhere. With a small sigh, she exited the library and quickly trotted over towards Fluttershy's cottage. "Who in all of Equestria dares to disturb the great and powerful Trixie's elegant slumber?" said the voice of a very cranky mare from inside a bedroom. Luna, the guard captain, and two other guards were at the doorway of one of the most luxurious suites available in the Canterlot Doubletree Hotel. "This is Silver Shield, captain of the Royal Guards," said the captain. "We are here under direct order from the princess to deal with the matter of equestrian security, and your assistance is required." "Oh, very well. One moment," came the voice, still holding half an arrogant tone. After a few moments, the door magically swung open to reveal an ice-blue mare with a light silvery mane and tail, her face giving off a message as if she was saying, "What is it now?" "Greetings, Trixie," Luna said as she gave a soft bow, which Trixie did not return. "I am Princess Luna, and the guards and I require your assistance on a most dire situation." "Now what could be so important that you would need to awake the great and powerful Trixie at such an hour?"
Great and powerful Trixie," Silvershield said. "We need your magical abilities to help us with Princess Celestia. She's had a dark and malicious part of herself sealed away in the darkest reaches of her mind, and now it has been released and is currently controlling her every move. In order to solve this dilemma before it gets out of hand, we need your skills in the fields of illusions, mental mechanics, and magic, and sealing spells." Trixie was now in deep thought, bringing a hoof up to her chin and stroking it while her eyebrow raised up over her right eye. "Why not leave Luna here?" "Oh. Derp. Why not have Luna here perform the task instead of Trixie? I'm sure that an alicorn would have more than enough magic to pull off the type of spells you're suggesting." "Well, I am very good at illusions," Luna said. "But with mental magics and sealing spells, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not very well rounded in those areas." "Well, Trixie sort of guessed that, seeing how you already came to me with this. However," Trixie lowered her head, thinking deeply for a few more seconds before raising it, "though I am all great and powerful, Princess Celestia's abilities far outmatch mine. I do not think my magic alone would be able to overpower hers." We have a solution to that, Silver Shield spoke up. You see, this side of Princess Celestia has a very nasty habit, and that habit usually drains her of most of her power for a short time. If we can catch her while she's underpowered, then you can cast your magic on her and seal away that side of her. Oh, God. Then you can seal away that side of her being back to where it was before.
Wait a moment. What is this habit of hers you speak of? Trixie questioned, her face confused. It must be something rather drastic if it drains her power away from her in the matter you speak. Well, she,
Luna began before Silver Shield cut her off. I'm sorry, but we're short of time. Please, gather your things, great and powerful Trixie. We'll debrief you on our way there.
On our way where?
East-southeast of here, towards the town of Ponyville. Twilight Sparkle, with Spike still on her back, had finally reached Fluttershy's cottage on the outskirts of town. She quietly made her way to the front and gently knocked on it, taking a quick look around to make sure she wasn't followed. The door opened with Fluttershy and Applejack there to greet her, both of them letting out a small sigh of relief that it was just her.
Hurry on, Twi, Applejack said. You don't want to be outside at a time like this. Yes, thank you, Applejack. And thank you, Fluttershy, for letting us come here on such a short notice. Oh, it's okay, really. The Crusaders have long since been tucked into bed, so I'm sure they're still asleep. I just wonder if the princess will be all right. I heard from Applejack that she may have come down with some kind of sickness.
We don't know if it's the work of magic or some sort of illness, Twilight pointed out.
But whatever it is, we have got to find a way to keep away from her and get professional help. I suggest we try to somehow get in contact with some guards at the Canterlot Castle. Maybe they can help us with what's going on.
But that'll take hours, Applejack said, and the princess might find us before we even get halfway there. We need a Pegasus pony to go over there for us, Big Mac said, speaking up. Some pony are really fast, like,
Rainbow Dash, came Rainbow Dash, came a voice from the opposite side of the cottage.
It was Pinkie Pie, hair still down, looking out at one of the windows and now pointing her hoof out through the darkness. Quickly, all the other ponies joined and strained to peek outside the window as they each tried to get their head into view. Sure enough, there was the rainbow-maned Pegasus slowly gliding out from the Everfree Forest. It was too dark to see much of her, but she had all four of her limbs hanging down as if she were depressed.
Hey, Rainbow! Applejack called. Is that you, Sugar Cube?
The figure stopped in midair, and then began to more hurriedly approach the cottage. The ponies pulled their heads back in time for Rainbow Dash to swoop inside and unceremoniously flop onto the floor.
Rainbow Dash, are you all right?
Twilight asked as her and the others rushed to Dash's side. Fluttershy had already swooped ahead and put a hoof around the Rainbow Pegasus, who was lightly sloking on the floor.
There, Fluttershy whispered in a soothing tone. You're all right now. We're going to make everything better.
Oh, my stars, Applejack gasped lightly, now realizing the tears gently flowing down Rainbow Dash's eyes.
Dash, you didn't happen to run into Princess Celestia, did you?
Rainbow Dash sniffled and nodded her head a few times in response before covering her face up with her hooves. How un-Rainbow Dash-like. I demand you rewrite this. The 5 other ponies looked at each other, a few of them gulping as they tried not to think of what the princess may have done. Fluttershy then continued to soothe and comfort Rainbow Dash as best she could, constantly stroking her mane while nuzzling against her gently. Applejack also knelt down beside Rainbow Dash and gently put a hoof around her, while Pinkie Pie lay down in front of Dash with a sad frown on her face, trying to look past the hooves that covered Dash's face.
Hey, Big Mac, Twilight spoke softly. Do you think we should try to get Rainbow Dash fly to Canterlot?
I ain't sure, Twilight, Big Mac said. Normally, I think we'd all agree to that, but right now I think Rainbow's heart just needs some healing before she does much of anything.
I know she needs time to recover, but this is urgent. The princess's life could be at stake here. If we don't hurry, something even worse may happen to her.
Or us, came Rainbow Dash's voice from between sobs. Twilight looked over and saw her friend staring straight at her, tears flowing freely from her eyes, but her face in a heavy scowl.
We've got to stop her, Twilight, before more ponies get used like that. She's right, Twilight, Pinkie said. We gotta stop Major Meanie Molestia before she hurts somebody else. Ah, Major Meanie Molestia.
Molestia. That name suddenly began to ring through Twilight's mind. Celestia. Celeste. Molestia. Twilight reared her head back. Her eyes squeezed shut as she tried to shake the thought out of her mind. I'll do it, Rainbow Dash said suddenly, and all eyes now returning to her. I can't let my friends go through what I did. I don't care if it's Celestia doing this. She's got to be stopped. I'm going to Canterlot to find help right now. Rainbow Dash got up, forcing her way past the 3 ponies who had gathered around her. Her eyes still had the streams left from her tears, but the flowing had stopped, and her solemn face had been replaced with one of determination. She trotted towards the window. Her wings flared, and she prepared to fly off. Are you sure you'll be okay, Sugar Cube? Applejack asked worriedly. I'll be fine. Just make sure you don't stay in this cottage for too long. Celestia may come here looking for you all. So get out now and see if you can't find somewhere safe to hide until I return. All right, Rainbow Dash. Stay safe, Twilight said just before Dash jumped out of the window and took flight, leaving a rainbow trail that was barely visible in the night sky, heading straight in the direction of Canterlot. The 5 remaining ponies in the room looked at each other, all of them wondering where they should head next. Maybe we should try to go out to the Crusaders' little treehouse not far from April Foals, Applejack said after a few moments. It's really out of the way, and certainly not a place any pony like Celestia would want to know about. Good thinking, Applejack, Twilight said. Every pony, get anything you might need, and let's get moving. What about the Crusaders? Fluttershy asked. We can't just leave them here all alone. You're right, Fluttershy. You and Pinkie Pie go wake up the Crusaders. Applejack, you and Big Mac try to gather up a bit of food and some blankets. I'll keep a lookout for anything suspicious, all right? The group nodded in agreement, and all 5 ponies went around to do their parts. Twilight walked up to one of the windows and peered through it, looking out through Ponyville's night sky. To her relief, there was still nothing flying around or anything looking like it might be Celestia. After about a minute, she heard Pinkie Pie calling her upstairs to help with something dealing with the Crusaders. Applejack and Big Macintosh stayed in the main area of the first floor, grabbing some spare blankets that had been laying around, as well as a basket of apples that had been left on a table near the corner of the room. As they gathered up a few more things, there was a light knock on the front door. Applejack and Big Macintosh looked at each other when they heard the knock, and then at the door. The knocking was soft, and it wasn't anything like they had heard coming from the roof of Rarity's place when Celestia had arrived. Slowly, Applejack walked towards the door, biting her bottom lip as she slowly reached her hoof out towards the doorknob. Big Macintosh took a step back and watched as Applejack gently creaked the door open and took a peek outside. Then she opened it fully, revealing that nothing was at the door. That's a bit odd, Applejack said softly as she turned around to look at her brother, but had just managed to witness the conclusion of a teleportation spell shape into the form of Princess Celestia inside of the cottage. Oh no! Both siblings gasped, and in the next moment, the front door closed quickly, pushed by Celestia's magic. Gotta increase the drama, you know. My. 2 at once, Celestia spoke softly, a grin appearing on her face. Seems like I've just won a prize. As she spoke, both Applejack and Big Macintosh backed up into the walls behind them, their eyes the size of saucers on their throat, and their throats too choked up to call out to the others. I wonder what I win. Oh, I know. I know. How about some wincest? That is gold. Before either of the 2 other ponies could make a move, Celestia's hair darted out like tentacles in both their directions, wrapping around their waists and began pulling them towards her. The 2 struggled and even tried biting at the hair at one point in an attempt to get free, but nothing worked. Gradually, they drew closer, both still struggling with all their might when Twilight casually trotted down the stairs. She was about to speak when she saw the scene inside, and quickly retreated back behind the wall of stairs. She peeked out, seeing both Applejack and Big Macintosh now in the clutches of her mentor, Princess Celestia. Her eyes widened and she struck a hoof in her mouth to keep her from gasping when she saw both of her friends pulled up beside Celestia, with her hair now beginning to wind and swirl around their bodies. Twilight, what are you? Fluttershy began, but was quickly hushed by Twilight's other hoof now going into her mouth. Twilight looked at her, her face full of fear as the sounds from inside the main room now became audible to Fluttershy. Her expression took one of shock as she began to lightly fumble around, wondering what to do next. Twilight took her hoof off of her own mouth and began pushing Fluttershy back up the stairs, closing the door quietly after they were in the top bedroom. Oh, no, 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 no. This is bad, Twilight gasped, her eyes twitching while her mind raced for a solution. High-pitched filly voice. What is it, Twilight? Said a high-pitched filly voice. Twilight turned to see 3 Crusaders beside her, each of them fresh from waking up, with Apple Bloom looking right at her. What's going on downstairs? Oh, nothing, girls. It's just, She looked over to Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie, both of their faces now in equal shock and confusion. Hey, girls, why don't you show us your clubhouse? But it's the middle of the night, Sweetie Belle said, rubbing her eye with her hoof. Can't we get back to bed? Well, how about we help you get your cutie marks while we're at it? You can help us get our cutie marks? Scootaloo spoke up, her face suddenly springing to life. She looked over to Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie again, both of them giving a bit of a nervous nod just before Twilight looked back at the 3 fillies. Yeah, you can be a cutie mark crusader, nighttime explorers. Ooh, all 3 of them went at once. The fillies exchanged looks for a few moments, and then all got up on their hind legs and brought a hoof in between them, yelling out, Cutie Mark Crusader, Nighttime Explorers, yeah! Come on now, girls, let's hurry and go get your cutie marks. Immediately, the 3 fillies shot towards the door and about to open it when Twilight used her magic to hold it shut. Not that way. It wouldn't be very adventurous to head out the door, now would it? Yeah, Scootaloo said. Let's go out the window. Come on, Crusaders. Again, the 3 bolted over towards the window, and one by one leaped out and slid down the side of the house, safely landing on the ground. Twilight, Fluttershy, and Pinkie Pie all headed over to the window as well, and then looked back towards the door, taking one last look before sliding out the window to join the Crusaders. After getting themselves up, all 6 began galloping out towards the treehouse. What? They're just gonna leave Applejack and Big Mac by themselves in a house with Princess Celestia, who's caused Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash to cry. Stupid.